Hello friends and lovers, my name is Haelian and I'm here to talk about the brand new Rogue Prince of Persia. The first 5 minutes or so, we're gonna talk about the game as if it's sort of a review. What I think about it, what I like about it, what I don't like about it. But I will be playing the game in the background and we'll have some gameplay after the review style session in case that's what you're interested in. Anyway, the game just came out a couple days ago as of this recording and just launched into early access. It is developed by Evil Empire. Oh my gosh. They are the team behind a lot of the Dead Cells DLC we've seen. They did everything in Dead Cells after 2019 is my understanding of it. However, they did not create the base game of Dead Cells in case that matters to you for some reason. They're working on a totally different game called Windblown. But anyway, this was by Evil Empire and it just came out. It is $18 currently, so it's a pretty cheap price. That to me falls into one of the positives. It's definitely not a bad price, I think, for what you get here overall and the promise of what's to come throughout early access. So let's talk about what I like about the game to start ourselves off here. So the art, I think, is really well done. I think the presentation is very nice. I think the music is absolutely amazing. It's not going to be to everyone's taste, but nothing ever is, you know? But I think it actually is, it sounds quite nice. It's very catchy. It's very upbeat. It's just got a great sort of I don't know, dancey vibe to it. It's very, very upbeat. I like it a lot. I like the music a lot. Some other positives, I think the movement can be really fluid. It actually feels really good a lot of the times that you are playing, but not necessarily all the time. And we'll get into why I don't always think that a little bit later on. And the other big thing is that it is rather familiar. If you watch or play the game, you're definitely going to see the Dead Cells DNA behind it. You're not going to get very far without kind of seeing, you know, its sort of connection to Dead Cells. You know, it's just inescapable between the way the weapons work, the sub-weapons, I guess you could call them, and the way the unlocks work, and just kind of like the general setup of the game. It definitely feels very Dead Cells-esque. So if you love Dead Cells, you might like this, or you might have some problems with it. And let's talk about the things that kind of are to make me go the other way with it. And I think to start off, while it feels quite challenging at first, when you first started playing, and it did feel it that way for me, it very quickly actually winds up feeling rather easy once you get to know some of the enemy movements and some of the other patterns of the layouts and some of the traversals, especially around the platform. It'll all start to feel very familiar. While the game is procedurally generated, there are still only so many layouts that you can see. There's only so many different, I guess you call them like cave systems that you can see with different platforms in it. So once you see it once, you've kind of seen a lot of it already, you know? So that's one problem that we got going on there. And then also, I feel like I mentioned how it's challenging when you first start playing, as it should be when you first start playing any game. But it doesn't feel challenging necessarily for the right reasons sometimes. And I think that kind of comes down to a rather complicated control system. And we'll kind of get into the controls a little bit when we first start talking about the gameplay after the review. The control system is kind of complex, sometimes needlessly so, and sometimes the character just kind of does things you don't really hope or intend, you know? The character, can't say that they have a life of their own, but sometimes you just don't really understand why the character decided to move a certain way, or it's hard to understand why it's programmed in such a way that, you know, or maybe like the level design is in such a way to be as annoying as possible is how I would describe it. So sometimes the platformer can feel a bit unfair, the enemies can feel a bit unbalanced. But let's move on to probably the biggest thing. And if you read the negative reviews, you'll probably see a lot of people talking about this as well, which is sort of just a lack of content in its current state. It did just launch in early access, but there is not a ton of content here. I played for 4 hours and I completed one run, and I kind of saw everything the game has to offer. I didn't use everything that the game has to offer, but I saw what was available in it. And it was at that point that I kind of realized that I'm not so certain that I really desired to play it anymore after my first win, essentially. We can sit there and keep replaying it, but at the end of the day, there's really only going to be, you know, a different weapon that you could use, basically. There are different medallions you can use, too, that we'll talk about later, but not certain that it's actually going to change up the gameplay enough to keep it that interesting, personally. So I think that's the big thing for most people, that right now, there is a distinct lack of content in my eyes. However, of course, it's early access. It's going to change. And supposedly there's going to be weekly updates. We'll see how far they can take that. I'm not really sure. That sounds pretty difficult to me. But hey, I hope the best to them. And if there is a team out there that could do it, I do think they've proven themselves, and they have done a really good job with the Dead Cells DLC, and everyone loved it. So I think they do have, you know, some credit to them that should allow a little bit of good faith. Oh my gosh, getting hit left and right here. Okay, moving on. Another thing, but these are much smaller things compared to the bigger things we just discussed. There is a rather poor translation at this point in time. There isn't a ton of dialogue in the game. There is simply some dialogue. There isn't definitely a well thought out story yet, as far as I can tell. There's some story beats. There are some things going on. I wouldn't really describe it as the most fascinating as far as I can tell, especially with the translation problems that we're seeing, because the first language is not in English. So assuming that you're looking for it in English, you might kind of notice that it feels rather stiff. It doesn't really, you can kind of tell right away, like, oh, this is not the language that it was initially written in, perhaps. The other thing is that it does have some performance problems. It's definitely not amazing. It's not the worst, but I've had slowdowns, I've had stuttering, I've seen complaints of other people having similar issues to that as well. I haven't had any like crashing problems, that's for certain, but it's definitely not perfect, you know, so you might run into some blips here and there. I think some side notes in case you're interested, there is some meta progression. You can unlock weapons and different medallions, as they call them, but that's it. There is no, you know, get more flasks, get better healing, get more health, get more damage, none of that stuff, none of that passive stuff, which might be boring to some, might be like exactly what they're looking for others. You know, that's not necessarily a good or bad thing. That is just something you might want to know in case you either want it or don't want it, you know? And this game basically just has weapon unlocks. Not really like Dead Cells, because Dead Cells did have some regular meta progression with the potion system or whatever, the flask system that they had there. As of right now, there's no way to upgrade your flask as far as I can tell. Okay, and that just about does it for what I would describe as the lazy review section of it, you know? So let's talk about the gameplay, and this is probably a good time to kind of stop and take a look at the medallion system that we have going on here. So we are in the middle of a run, of course, as you can see. And we have now picked up a new medallion. I can cancel out of it. You can have up to 4 different medallions at once, and they can buff each other depending on the placement. So if you look at the description of a sticky kick here, when kicking an enemy, we spread resin. But you can see that green arrow to the right of it. That basically means that wherever I put sticky kick, it will upgrade the medallion to the right of it by 1 star. So for instance, I have something on the far left here. If I decided to replace it, it would upgrade the thing on the right. You know, so it's kind of like this mildly complex system, you know? I don't think it's really worth replacing the one we already have here. When finding a new Well of Dreams, restore some health. Well of Dreams is a teleport station, basically. We also have Flaming Counter. For every hit taken, restore 20 energy points, receive 30 gold, since it's already been upgraded once. So I'm just going to drop Sticky Kick here for now. I don't know if we're really going to keep it. So resin is kind of like oil in Dead Cells. It just kind of makes the other stuff better, I guess is the best way I can describe it. There's poison and then there's fire. So if something has resin on it and you set fire to it, it just kind of makes that fire stronger. So that's sort of the hope that we have going on there. But that is not upgraded enough in order for that to happen. Now let's talk about the basic controls and what we have in terms of the game. So yes, you have a basic attack combo here. You also have a special attack. If you hold down the button, we can throw the spear. I guess that's what that one is now. We also have a sub weapon, sort of. That is the right button. It requires energy to use, though. I'll go and use it. We threw our chakram, and now we are now out of energy. We do have a healing flask in the top left. It gets refilled at the end of every zone. You also get healed for like 50% HP in between every zone, too. You do have a dash, but this is the dash. It definitely doesn't look or feel good. If you dash into an enemy, you don't simply dash through them. You actually vault up and kind of wind up behind them in the air, at which point you can then use a variety of moves, like basically just attack them, though, for the most part, which is kind of an interesting way to go about it. I don't know if the vault feels good is how I would describe it either. You also have a melee kick. This will kind of stagger enemies and push them very far, possibly into spikes, possibly off an edge, and will hopefully kill them that way. You can also kick different pieces of terrain and kind of use them against the enemies as well, like some rocks that are on the ground and stuff like that. And the biggest thing is you can grab onto the background. I can hold down the left trigger button because I'm playing with controller, and you can grab onto the background and kind of scale the wall there, as you can see. And that's definitely very interesting. That is definitely a very unique and distinct mechanic that they managed to add to the game that makes it feel quite good. Now, the issues that start to come up is that, like I described, it's kind of hard to put into words without strict examples, but it just feels like the prince has a bit of a mind of his own here. And it kind of feels like he does things, or maybe it's just more so the level layouts are set up in such a way to just be rather frustrating and not necessarily intuitive. It doesn't feel like you're in full control a lot of the times, or the controls don't feel like they're doing what they're meant to do. You know, a lot of the things that I'm intending to do just don't really pull through when I'm trying to do them. But here we are at the second zone here. There are some alternate zones, I should say, already in the game, which is a bit of a surprise. And they all have their different theming. They all look pretty cool, I think. I do think they do look quite nice. So there we go. We're just going to kill these enemies, no problem. Not much else to say about it. Of course, diving down into just the abyss is a bit dangerous, just like in Dead Cells was, of course. You can look around for different sort of caves and stuff and see if you can find some treasure. But if we find like a challenge room, I guess I'm going to call it, where it requires a lot of platforming, those are where the fun kind of starts to wane, especially if you've done them before, because once you do them once, you've probably seen it, and while there's good incentives to do them again, because you get some rewards out of it, it doesn't really feel good to just take the same platforming challenge again and again and again. Okay, this is a bit new actually for me. The Tower of Oblivion. I need the lever to activate the mechanism. I should go talk to Azada. Okay, we got a little mini quest, I guess, for ourselves here that I haven't done yet. Okay, health's looking pretty solid. Throwing out the chakram. I can't believe I actually managed to dash through that. Now, there is no double jump or anything, and there's no, like, a Metroidvania ability gating as far as I can tell quite yet. Oh, we do have a dive, though, which is what actually completely drains the energy bar on the enemies, which is interesting. I wouldn't have guessed that it would pretty much always completely drain the energy. Sorry, not energy, the shield bar on these enemies, but it does, even on bosses. One thing is, so we have a chakram now, but we had a bow earlier, and for some reason you cannot, okay, really struggling right there. You cannot aim the bow, which is a bit confusing in my eyes. Like, it just goes left or right, that's it. You can't aim it slightly up or slightly down or anything. So it just kind of is what it is. Oh God. See, I'm worried I'm not going to make the jump over this bad boy. Okay, so dashing did not actually work like I was hoping. Come on, Prince. You can do it. I believe in you. I had to use my healing potion. So far, I have only seen 2 different bosses in the game. The first boss and the final boss. There are 2 zones, a boss, 2 zones, and a boss, and that is basically the layout for the game right now. When hitting an enemy from afar, restore 30 energy points, receive some money. Okay, that looks pretty good. We'll put that on the right, and it'll buff everything to the left. Oh, there's some money here. We gotta watch our health. I gotta be careful. Don't fall into the spikes and such. Oh, no. Immediately got bonked by that stupid little fly or something like that. There are little shops lying around. We get a little heal from that. Hey, speak of the devil. We can get a little heal here. I kind of like the bow over the chakram here. We got some money anyway. We could get a better weapon. It is a slightly higher level, and they do different things. You can look at the special attacks here if you're interested. I'll be honest, like, there's still some things I don't necessarily do super well. For every vault you perform, you spread resin. I kind of desperately need that heal. This is for kicking an enemy. I might actually prefer the vault over kicking a little bit. Apparently, oh, it needs a star. I see. Okay, this was a dead end after that. So we can go back. I think I understand where to go here. The map system, it's not super clear. This is sort of like a mission-based system. It so reminds me of Outer Wilds when I first look at it, just kind of connecting the dots. So there's a little bit more to do here. I feel like it's not super clear what where or what they want you to do. Like this was some kind of automatically generated map. But it's serviceable. It works. It's good enough, probably. Okay, we still got our spear. I decided not to buy that weapon, didn't I? Okay, I was really hoping you'd send that out a little bit sooner. Is that our flames? I sure hope so. I think it is. Now, if you're interested in tips about the game, all I can tell you is that poison and fire, or a combination of them, works like crazy well. It's like super strong. It kills bosses really easily, very quickly. We got some double daggers, level 5. I'll take that over the spear. I don't know if I'm infatuated with the spear so much. It was new to me here, though. The unlocks are quite expensive. I do think one little thing they could do to make the game a little bit better from a beginner's perspective is to probably just give us some more of the unlocks right away, because it felt like I had just seen every medallion, every weapon multiple times in just the 4 hours that I played. And then when I finally got the win, they're like, okay, yeah, by the way, there's more stuff. It's like, oh, well, probably would have been nice to have a few more of those available for those first 4 hours of gameplay or so, you know? Let's get on up. You don't want to kind of wait to show the majority of the content until, you know, they've kind of already gotten that win in, I think, in my eyes. So I unlocked... I don't know if I can easily get over here. Let's see what's over here. What's down here? We had to go through some work to unlock this. Looks like we did get a new NPC, Fairy L. Find Fairy L at the HQ. We needed you. I know, mother. Oh, it's his mother. Interesting. If you're interested, I know some people are very curious. What about like time travel, rewind time, like Sansa's time stuff? None of that is really in the game so far. Or rather, it's really only reserved for the purposes of dying and or winning, I guess. A run where the prince dies and therefore time gets rewound, I'm afraid. So if you're hoping it was like a usable mechanic, I'm afraid that is simply not the case. Now, I don't know about anyone else, but I actually really enjoyed the fairly recent Metroidvania Prince of Persia that Ubisoft put out. I thought it was actually a really well done game. Very much so enjoyed it. Would highly recommend it. It's interesting this was in development around the same time as it. This is a grappling hook. I don't think I want it though. Not a big fan. So kind of interesting that they're coming so close together, like same year and everything. But I can definitely recommend that game. I guess if you're curious what my overall thoughts are, and I'll probably say it again at the end of the video, it is that we should probably wait on this one. Mostly because of the lack of content and a few things that they could probably iron out to smooth out the experience. There's really not much harm, unless you are a huge fan of Dead Cells and you really want to be part of the feedback loop for this game to try to make them craft a better game. There's no big reason to play it right now. I feel like it will almost only be to your detriment to dive into it now when there isn't a lot of content, and then you won't really feel super incentivized to play it later on when there is more stuff to be had, because that happens to a lot of us, right? We buy a game early access, we get a little burnt out on it, and then we never come back. Happens a lot. This is the first boss. Yes, I know, I fell right into your trap. We've been here before, but the boss is not aware of that. Okay, from afar, shoot them. So climb the wall to stay out of that. Okay, we gotta climb the wall. Okay, we gotta kind of dive in. Okay, we can't this time though. So now we can kick the rock. There we go. If you kick the rock, that breaks the shield. Okay, that one I didn't see coming. We're gonna have to get behind him. Kick the rock, it'll still stagger him even at this point. So I think I'm supposed to vault into him to spread the resin, if I remember right. There we go, that's what spread the resin. Now to actually get the flames out, I would have to get hit, which is probably not gonna happen. Okay, my friend. Let him freak out here. He's out about half. All right, I think I gotta wait for the shields to actually go away, though, to be able to attack him. I think. There we go. Oh, please hit the rock. Okay, I guess that one missed. I do still have my healing flask. Damn, he countered me. You got me, dude. Go and kick that over to him. Let's go ahead and run away. Okay. That was very close. I almost died. I'm going to go ahead and heal while he's staggered. Let him kick. It's interesting he throws rocks in like midair too sometimes. All right, he's almost done. Damn. Oh! Not a lot of warning on that, I feel. Is he going to do it again? He is. Looks like he's done. Is that it? That's all she wrote. That is the first boss. You're so predictable. How could you know? Because we've been here before, buddy. There you go. Drops a bunch of loot, money, weapons, etc. We got a higher level double daggers, a higher level chakram we'll go ahead and take. We got a sticky trick, and for every hit you land on an enemy from behind, we can spread resin if it's at least level 2. I think that's pretty good. The flaming counter is probably not great because we have to get hit in order for that to work. But at the same time, yeah. So if I hit from behind, we can spread resin, but I have to level it to 2. We also deal bonus damage. This way, if I hit an enemy from behind, at least there's that. And next would be the Tower of Oblivion. This is going to be Zone 3. We saw the first 2 zones in the first boss, but I think I'm just going to cut it there because I want to kind of keep it short as a more review style video. This is still half of the content that the game has, in a sense, in a gameplay, like a run loop sense. So this is kind of what is there for the most part. You'd kind of expect a mixture of the same things in the future zones, and the boss, while is a little bit different, it is still just, you know, another boss. I definitely don't hate the game. My final thoughts are, I think it just needs a little bit more time. It needs more content, and it needs to iron out a few of the problems that I think it has, namely around the movement, maybe some of the level design, and just give us kind of more things to do in the game. I don't feel very incentivized to play a lot of it right now because I feel like I've already seen most of what is there, you know? For $18, it's definitely not a bad price. It's not an overpriced game, I think. But I don't think it will stick with many players for very long in its current state. So my overall advice, just hang on for a little while. Check on it in a few months maybe or something like that. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you all enjoyed the video. Remember to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.